warm welcome to all the viewers. In today's session of Tourism and Hospitality Research, I'm going to talk about how to conduct a systematic review of literature via PRISMA. Some of you might have heard about PRISMA, which is a method to conduct a systematic literature review. But for those who are not that much aware, I'm going to tell you step by step. In just 8 steps, I'm going to define and tell you the procedure to adopt in case you want to write a paper or you want to include systematic review in your thesis. You can do it easily by following those 8 steps. We can find all these guidelines on the Prisma website, which is www.prismastatement.org. So let us start. PRISMA stands for Preferred Reporting Items for Systematic Reviews and Meta-Analysis. This method is a widely used framework for conducting and reporting systematic literature reviews and meta-analysis. It focuses on transparency and completeness in the reporting of systematic reviews, particularly those assessing the benefits and harms of healthcare interventions. But we can use it in social sciences and other streams as well. The method includes a checklist and a flow diagram to guide the researchers through the process and ensure a rigorous and reproducible review. What are the steps? So now the 8 steps which need to be followed in case you want to do a systematic review of literature. So, before we delve into systematic review of literature, I'm going to tell you what is the difference between a traditional or a narrative review and a systematic review. Now, traditionally, the reviews were written and the papers were accepted also, wherein there was no accountability as such from the point of view of the author that which papers were considered and which were not considered, or what was the search criteria adopted by the researcher for shortlisting the relevant papers for that research. Now, uh, as recently we got in the technique of PRISMA, and now the researcher has the accountability of stating that what are the sources of review he or she has used, referred to while framing the research, while exploring the topic in the depth, in detail, which helps a reader or a reviewer to assess that your work is legitimate. You have actually worked on that and you have filtered out the relevant papers and then you are producing that thing. In a way, it can be tracked back onto what was considered by you for answering your specific research questions, and one can reproduce that research using your references. So this is known as systematic review of literature. So the first step is formulating a research question. As we do in the case of any kind of a research, we clearly define the question and the systematic review aims to answer it. So the methodology here we are going to use in this systematic review paper, the methodology will be PRISMA. Second is defining criteria for inclusion and exclusion. That is establishing clear criteria for selecting studies to be included in the review. So which kind of studies do you want to include based upon the scope of your study? You can also go into selecting a particular number of years for studying that topic, and then you define that I selected the studies which existed from say year 2000 till 2025. So that's spanning a period of 25 years. So you can decide upon the relevance of your study and then decide upon which studies you want to include or which you want to exclude out of this thing. Next is exploring studies, identifying relevant databases and search for studies based on the defined criteria. So you might like to search in studies on Scopus database, on Web of Science database, on Google Scholar database, on Science Direct. So there are different databases which I have talked about in my previous video. You might like to go back and check on wherein I have explained what are the online platforms available for review of literature. So you can go onto that databases and select and search for those relevant studies to be included for your paper. Next is selecting relevant studies. Now you screen the titles and the abstracts to remove irrelevant studies and then apply inclusion and exclusion criteria to the remaining studies. So you select them based on their title, the abstract, which is a short summary of your paper. It tells you about what has been done, how it has been done, and what are the relevant results of your studies along with the future scope of your study or the future recommendation. So that is a short abstract in 200 to 250 words. So based on the abstract and the titles of the studies, you can shortlist them. Fifth step is extracting relevant data using a structured approach like a spreadsheet or a specialized software like Mendeley, Zotero, EndNote. People use these kind of referencing softwares to extract relevant data from each included study. These softwares are also used to compile a number of studies from different databases, and often people also use a spreadsheet format where they list down all the relevant papers, their year of publication, their authors, what was so important in them, their findings, the gaps and all, which are mentioned in that spreadsheet. Later, the sixth step is evaluating the bias risk. So this is the assessment of the potential biases in the included studies using appropriate tools. So you need to see that whether the study which you are preferring or which you want to utilize the information of that study for your own study, whether the results were biased or the studies were biased in some form, maybe the methodology was not adopted as such in its true form. Example over here is that people often use formative indicators as if they are reflective in nature uh, when they perform the analysis, structural equation modeling in Amos, because Amos does not take formative indicators, it just works on reflective indicators. And in case you have formative indicators, you need to go into Smart PLS to do that. But sometimes some of the studies have been seen like the indicators or the items which form a construct, all the indicators convey different meanings, but still the researchers have taken them to be reflective in nature, uh, while it is wrong because in reflective the indicators convey the same meaning. Here they are conveying different meaning. So these are the different kind of risks, bias risks, which you should see. You should try to omit such kind of studies and give a relevant reason for that by going into their methodology and all. Next is presenting the results. Clearly present the findings of the review, including the search strategy, selection process, and the results of data extraction and the risk of bias assessment. And the last is preparing the final report, adhering to the PRISMA checklist and flow diagram. Now I'm going to show you the PRISMA checklist, which is very much present on the PRISMA statement website, and the flow diagram, which is also present on the website. So let us go and check it out. Just need to type in PRISMA method for systematic literature review and go to this website, which is PRISMA statement. PRISMA statement. I click on PRISMA statement and I go to this website. You see, welcome to the PRISMA website. So PRISMA reporting guidelines are designed to improve the reporting of systematic reviews. Now, I want to see the expanded checklist, which is available on this website. So PRISMA 2020 expanded checklist. Now you see, they have defined and described quite conveniently how you can adopt this technique to write systematic literature review. a paper in its own kind. And you can find several examples of systematic literature review, which you can download easily through Google Scholar and other databases for your reference, and start writing your next systematic literature review paper. So the first is title item. Identify the report as a systematic review. So in the title itself, you mention that this is a systematic review. So that indicates that you have used PRISMA in your review uh, paper, right? Then abstract. See the PRISMA 2024 abstract checklist. Report an abstract addressing each item in the PRISMA 2024 abstract checklist. Now, each item in the PRISMA 2020 abstract checklist is like what is the relevance of your study? How you are going to achieve that? What is the methodology you have adopted? What are the relevant findings? What is the conclusion? And what is the future recommendations you have provided? So along with the practical implications, the theoretical implications and all. So this has to be included in abstract, which is a 200 to 250 words paragraph at the beginning of your paper. Next is in the introduction section, you have to tell about the rationale of the study, the purpose of the study, describe the rationale for the review in the context of existing knowledge, and then give the objectives of the study. Provide an explicit statement of the objectives or questions the review addresses. Then the third is methodology or the method section, in which you specify the inclusion and exclusion criteria for the review and how studies were grouped for the synthesis. Then information sources, specify all databases, website, organizations, registers, reference list and other sources which you searched or consulted to identify the studies. Specify the date when each source was searched or consulted. Search strategy. Present the full search strategies for all databases, registers, and website, including any filters and limits used. Say you particularly used a number of years to search in for the papers. Selection process. Specify the method used to decide whether a study met the inclusion criteria, including how many reviewers screened each record and each report retrieved, whether they worked independently and if applicable. So you see in Prisma, every step is uh, comprehensively defined so that you come to know each and everything about that paper. So you see, you can go into this checklist and check out for yourself what are the other points. They all are described very well and in quite a detail. Now I'll show you a flow diagram. So here is the flow diagram for a new systematic review, which includes search of databases, registers, and other sources. Again, this flow diagram has been directly taken in from the website, and the reference is mentioned over here. So in this flow diagram, you see, first you identify the studies, which databases were used, how many databases were used, records removed before screening, that is duplicate records removed, record marks with ineligible by automation tools, records removed for other reasons. Say for an example, you don't include the studies which have not been published, which are just working papers for now. Identification of studies by other methods. Records are identified from website, organization search, citation searching. Then screening of these records. First you identified them and then you screen them. Record screen, number of records screened. Records excluded, number of records excluded. Reports sought for retrieval, reports not retrieved. Reports assessed for eligibility, reports excluded. So what are the reasons for excluding the reports or publications in the screening? So this is how you define them in this flow chart form with the number of papers, and ultimately you get studies included in the review from both the databases, registers, and other methods as well. So you get here the included studies, number of included studies, and number of reports included. So this is how you do systematic literature review. Uh, Quite useful and quite informative way to present your study present your literature review. Even you can use this technique for the literature review part of your thesis, your dissertation, and it will be quite appreciated by your guide and your mentors as well. So I hope the video was quite informative and useful for you, and you will definitely share it with your friends and faculty colleagues. Thanks for watching and keep watching for more.